Hello, wonderful person. This is Chris for the Informed Stoner. It is Friday and time for our midday news report. Today's news report comes from the AP. Trump can be sued for January 6th riot harm, Justice Department says. That's an interesting title. Let's see what they have to say. Former President Donald Trump can be sued by injured Capitol Police officers and Democratic lawmakers over the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The Justice Department said Thursday in a federal court case testing Trump's legal vulnerability for his speech before the riot. I think that's kind of weird and silly, but I guess I don't make the laws. The Justice Department told a Washington federal appeal court in the legal filing that it should allow the lawsuit to move forward, rejecting Trump's argument that he's immune for the claims. The department said it takes no position on the lawsuit's claims that the former president's words incited the attack on the Capitol. Nevertheless, justice lawyers told the court that a president would not be protected by absolute immunity if his words were found to have been an incitement of imminent private violence. So, have they found that? I don't know. I didn't hear that they had found that his words were causing that, but maybe that's what this trial will be about. We'll see. As the nation's leader and head of state, the president has an extraordinary power to speak to his fellow citizens on their behalf, he wrote. But the traditional function is one of public communication and persuasion, not incitement and imminent private violence. That's an odd way to put it. The brief was filed by lawyers on Justice Department's civil defense and has no bearing on a separate criminal investigation by a department special counsel into whether Trump can be criminally charged over the efforts to undo President Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 presidential. Well, of course he's not going to be able to undo it. I mean, we all know there's nothing super funky going on. It was ballot harvesting and crap, which is legal in some areas. So it's not like they broke the laws, they just changed stuff. So what happens? I mean, I think both sides do their own crap. Let's be honest here. Election head for the Capitol riot. In fact, the lawyers note they are not taking a position which respects the potential criminal liability for Trump or anyone else. Trump's lawyers have argued he is acting within the bounds of his official duties and had no intention to spark violence when he calls for thousands to support march to the Capitol and to fight like hell before the riot erupted. The actions of rioters do not strip President Trump of immunity, his lawyers wrote in court papers. The run-up to January 6th and the day itself, President Trump was acting well within the scope of ordinary presidential action when he engaged in open discussion and debate with integrity on the 2020 election. Again, he was giving a speech. This stuff happened. Was the speech the cause of it? I mean, I guess a trial would be warranted to deduce that. Hopefully, both sides are going to have their own opinions. Good luck finding somebody in the middle that could actually deliberate that. But Trump's spokesman said Thursday that the president repeatedly called for peace, patriotism, and respect for our men and women of law enforcement. On January 6th, that the courts should rule in favor of President Trump in short order and dismiss this frivolous lawsuit. The case is among many legal woes facing Trump as he mounts with another bid for the White House in 2024. A prosecutor in Georgia has been investigating whether Trump and his allies broke the law as they tried to overturn his election defeat in the state. Trump is also under federal criminal investigation over top secret documents found in his Florida estate. In the separate investigation into Trump and his allies' efforts to keep the Republican president in power, Special Counsel Jack Smith was subpoenaed former President Mike Pence, who said he will fight the subpoena. Trump is appealing a decision by a federal judge in Washington who last year rejected efforts by the former president to toss out the conspiracy civil lawsuit, followed by lawmakers and police officers. U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta, I'm sorry, I always butcher names, I'm very sorry, ruled that Trump's words during a rally, wow, can't read all of a sudden, Grab a drink real quick. I apologize. Ruled that Trump's words during a rally before the violent storming of the U.S. Capitol were likely words of incitement not protected by the First Amendment. Only in the most extraordinary circumstances could a court not recognize that the First Amendment protects the president's speech. Mehet wrote on February 22nd ruling, but the court believes that this is the case. One of the lawsuits filed by Rep. Eric Swalwell, Democrat of California, alleges that Trump directly incited the violence at the Capitol that followed and then watched approvingly as the building was overrun. 2 other lawsuits were filed on other House Democrats and by Officer James Blassingham and Sidney Hemby. The House Democrat lawsuit cites a federal civil rights law that is enacted to counter the Ku Klux Klan intimidation of officials. The case describes in detail how Trump and others spread baseless claims of election fraud, both before and after the 2020 presidential election. It charged that they hoped to rile up with thousands of rioters before they stormed the Capitol. The lawsuit seeks damage for the physical and emotional injuries the plaintiffs sustained during the insurrection. Sorry about that. Even if the appeals court agrees that Trump can't be sued, those who brought the lawsuit still face an uphill battle. They would need to show there was more than fiery rhetoric, but a direct and intentional call for imminent violence, said Lauren Levison, a Loyola Law School professor and former federal prosecutor. We are really far away from knowing that even if the court allows the lawsuit to go forward, whether they would be successful. Even if the court says hypothetically you can bring an action against the president, I think they're likely to draw a line that's very generous to the president's protected conduct. In its filing, the Justice Department cautioned that the court must take care not to adopt rules that would unduly chill legitimate presidential communication or saddle a president with burdensome and intrusive lawsuits. In exercising their traditional communication functions, presidents routinely address controversial issues that are subject to passionate feelings. The department wrote, presidents may at times use stronger rhetoric, and some who hear the rhetoric may overreact or even respond with violence. I mean, they said a lot in this article, and I have to agree. I mean, sometimes presidents are going to have to say stuff that people might think is rhetoric or something like that. Is it right all the time? Probably not. Is there a time that they lie to us? I know they say it's for our own good. Usually, it's usually not. They should tell us the truth, but I know in their own minds they think they're doing something right sometimes. But sometimes I think they just do it because they're, not very nice people. But it depends. Both sides got their good and their bad. But that's just my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own. But if you like what you saw and you guys want to stick around and see more, please like and subscribe and come back and see us again sometime. Have a wonderful afternoon.